All white people are racist, all men are misogynistic, all cisgender people are transphobic. In fact, most people are racist, misogynistic, transphobic.
Latinos here in this country that do agree that the immigration problem is a problem and it does need to be addressed and it does need to be fixed.
Interesting.
But making those comments, those racist comments, do not help.
And if you kick every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
Oh, that's no.
In the sense that, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm saying
there's more jobs to be.
In LA, they always.
But they Latinos are not only the only people.
I didn't mean it like that. Come on. No, I would never mean it like that.
Okay.
Like, I'm not part of this argument with.
I think what you're saying is that Trump himself
needs to look out his
probably
window and
relies on
a lot of them actually believe in the manosphere, by the way. The manosphere, you know the manosphere.
You made that up?
You realize people have different opinions in there and are different groups and different ideas. Actually, I did.
Yeah!
Face to face with a few of them, such as, well, Emily Yukis. She's not there. Okay. What was his name? You haven't talked to a single one of them. You don't know what you're talking about. You're slandering people like all the people that were out here protesting. You don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I think that if you're going to do this interview that way, and I think that's ridiculous. If you're going to slander people, I'm going to call you out, and this is me calling you out. So I am slandering them for their policies of racism. I have read Mike Cernovich's awfulness, and just because you're laughing and wearing a beautiful gown doesn't mean that you are correct. Actually,
right.
I'm
Me
sorry.
having the facts means I'm correct.
I thought
What facts have you given me? You've asked me a lot of questions, and then when I haven't given something, you say that I'm wrong. But what facts have you actually offered? I just want to know that.
I offered counters to every single time you claimed there was a white supremacist in there.
You offered bullying tactics.
No, I'm asking for you to substantiate your bullying and slander of this group, and you haven't given me one piece of substantial evidence. Not one.
How about Milo Yiannopoulos?
He's not there.
He was actually a featured guest.
He's not
Is
there.
he not there?
I was just in there. He's not there.
Is
You don't know a
He was
thing.
a featured
You
guest.
don't know a thing. No,
he
he's
was
not.
a featured guest.
I was just in there. He's not in there.
That doesn't mean he wasn't a featured guest. Could you actually accurately
I'm a
state?
featured guest at the deplorable.
I know that you are. You're actually the only woman who's actually featured. Because guess what? It's a bunch of dudes. And I do not appreciate that.
Did you just call me a woman? I'm legally a man.
Are you?
Yes.
Do your viewers realize that?
Yes. I did a whole video on it.
You're legally a man?
I am legally a man.
Do you identify as a cis woman or a cis
I'm a
male
man.
or transgender?
I'm a man.
You're a man?
Yes.
Can I interject?
I'm surprised by that. My apologies. I never would have known that.
Cheers. All right, well, make sure to check people's pronouns.
Oh, stop the press is a gay man's catty. Oh, good Lord. No speech. Oh dear. Oh dear. Let me tell you, sir, fat shaming works. Of course it works. I mean, who would ever imagine that fat shaming wouldn't work? Like somebody you love, so do I look hot in this? No, not anymore. You'd stop eating. And in fact, all the studies suggest. All right, sweetheart. Criminologist Dr. Richard Johnson from the University of Toledo. You want some facts? Here are some. Based on the 2012 numbers, it would take 40 years worth of blacks killed by police to equal the total number of blacks murdered by police in a single year. 900 people have been killed by cops in 2016. 47% were white males. Only 24% were black males. Black men are not killed out of proportion, especially considering that they're much more likely to interact with cops. People are killed by police about as often as they're killed by lightning. There are no protests about storms. Black males are 58% of those killed legally by private citizens in self-defense. You might think that's an aha moment about racist whites, but 75% of those were killed by other blacks. FBI statistics on murder lay bare the real threats to black lives in America. Black men are about 6.5% of the US population, but they commit 52% of all murders over a 30-year period, which has dipped to about 40% in recent years, but still, horribly and vastly disproportionate. Black men overwhelmingly murder other black people. Whites overwhelmingly murder other whites. That's not the narrative from Black Lives Matter. Looking at overall violent crime, blacks are 27 times more likely to attack whites than vice versa, and 8 times more likely to attack Hispanics. That's a shocking number I hope you take away from my visit. 90% of blacks that die from murder die at the hands of others.
Guessing, but I say yes.
So my question is about your characterization of the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, you characterize it as sort of divisive, antagonistic, loud, etc. Have you ever now?
They've made that clear themselves to me.
Two questions so we're on the same page. Have you ever heard of the Harvard implicit biases test?
No.
Okay, so what they do essentially is you can go on their website and you can take a test which shows what you associate with people of different creeds, colors, genders, etc. And they've been doing this for years, scientifically controlled study, very reliable, and it turns out that nearly everyone thinks black people, just by virtue of being black, are loud, divisive, antagonistic, etc. So to me, what that tells me is that, you know, they're probably not, and we just perceive them that way for whatever reason. So my question is, why are you so confident in your assessment of Black Lives Matter when almost all the scientific evidence shows us that we misinterpret black people?
Well, that's not what the study of the study says. It says that's not what the study of the study says. What it says is people perceive certain characteristics in black people. Well, they might be right about that. Next question. Given the segregation in this country, it's not unreasonable to assume that different speech codes have evolved between different racial groups and different cultural milieus give rise to different sorts of interpersonal behaviours. Certainly we know that black people use Twitter differently, for instance, the way they use it. There are metrics on this. There's plenty of research to show how black Twitter operates differently, linguistically speaking. They use hashtags differently. There's no reason to suppose that the results that are shown by this study aren't in fact the case. You know, people perceive black people as being louder because black people are louder. That's possible. It's not racist to say. It might just be a difference.
Exactly. Facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah.
There you go. I should say that. It's a wonderful answer, John.
Who are the loud ones tonight, though? Like,
Serious.
So, earlier in the talk, two-part question but they're related. Earlier in the talk, you mentioned something about statistics and rape and how they're not different in colleges. And I'm interested in that because I've been made to believe that I am a rapist when I have never raped anybody. And it's a stigma that I would like to dispel with statistics. In addition to somebody who wishes to want to look at facts, like you've looked at facts.
First of all, the other people there over there shouting and stuff.
Yeah, nothing happened. Nothing happened. I didn't see anything.
We are here today to call out, as you're all aware, Jordan B. Peterson for his refusal to respect the pronouns of his transgender students. Jordan B. Peterson has made it clear that he feels that he has the authority to dictate the gender identities of his students, which we are here to say that he does not.
Did you want to do an interview about this? I'm trying to get all opinions, you know?
I think we're supposed to prioritize trans and non-binary voices, so I'm just more interested in what
So
you have to
are
say.
you binary then?
I am not.
Well, let me prioritize your voice.
I don't think that's fair as a white cis woman. But
I'm actually not cis, but
that's me.
what does that mean?
I'm saying that's not fair for me as a white cis woman. So you're trans then, or you're non-binary?
Didn't you just say you're non-binary?
You asked me if I was, and I said no, I'm cis.
Okay,
You
you're
said
cis.
You're not
Okay.
cis. And
So
I
you
said,
think
"So
it's
you're trans
unfair to
then."
talk because you're cisgender?
No, I'm supportive of the trans community, and I think that it's important that we listen to trans and non-binary voices first.
Don't you think everyone's opinion matters equally?
Not in this one.
Like if you're willing to be educated, I'm willing to teach. But if you're not willing to listen to
I'm
what
not.
I have to say,
You aren't necessarily an educator, though. That's the problem. Everyone. I know.
I'm just
Exactly.
saying
So
that
we're gonna.
maybe as us as trans people, we have a little bit more.
we have more
understanding than
we have more
someone who isn't
knowledge
trans.
on this subject than other people do. We have the
You don't have
first-hand
to go on the
experience.
sun to talk about the sun. You can look into it. You can read the statistics.
But someone who has been closer to the sun would have a better
As
experience.
that works,
on
I think
what
they'd be
the
dead,
sun
to be
is.
honest.
Yeah, they would, but that's what. But like, if they wouldn't, they would have more to say.
I can tell you how hot the sun is without going to the sun. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, but anyone can tell you how hot the sun is. Anyone
Yes.
can tell you trans people are trans. Isn't trying to have a discussion.
Have you gone to go have a discussion with Peterson?
What he said was that he would not acknowledge our pronouns. That is not the same as saying he wants to have a discussion.
And he said because and gave a reason. Now, if you went and asked him for more to have a debate on that, if I say I don't believe the sky is green,
to talk to him. I wouldn't be safe in that.
you think he'd hurt you?
A transmasculine person in a dress talking to transphobes is never safe, whether it's physical or verbal.
Okay, so you're not willing to have a discussion because it wouldn't be a safe space.
I am not willing to have a discussion about whether or not I am real and valid.
Would you like to give your opinion? I mean, we just had someone scream at us that I'm interviewing too many white people, too many white men.
White people, way too many cis men.
Why is that a problem?
I think you're going up to the straightest, cisest, whitest people you can find.
Wearing a Milo shirt if they came in on time when I ordered it in September. So first
Oh, I'm
fuck you.
oh, good heavens, good heavens. I'm sorry. Are you the lady that emailed me?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
And
I will check up on that for you after the show. And if I maybe I'll give you this. I will check up on that for you after the show. Come and see us. What's the question, lady?
First of all, that's one of my formerly many stickers on your hat. But second of all, I was going to ask more about your views on communism since this summer I visited Hungary and I visited what they call their House of Terror, which was basically it was the Nazis and the Soviets both shared the same building, and basically we got to see the basement where many people were tortured and killed, and after that I used to be so far left that my parents said I made a circle, but after that. My views on communism, everything drastically changed. So since I haven't heard you talk much on communism, I wanted to know your views since there's a lot of commies outside.
Sure. They were lovely. Well, I even came dressed as one. A lot more glamorous and beautiful. But, well, it is a political ideology that has been probably the most underreported version of hatefulness in the history of our species. I mean, communism has killed a hell of a lot more people than fascism has. Not that it's a competition. You know, I'm not the sort of person that gets into body counts, but if I were, communism wins. It's a weird sort of thing. It's become a sort of glamorous... Well, you know, I don't think it is anymore, actually. I think it was, for a very long time, a kind of glamorous moment in culture. That, you know, you could sort of wear a hammer and sickle, or you could, you know, wear a Che Guevara T-shirt. And it was sort of all right because somehow they were seen as hot because they were sweaty and they had beards and they came from some sort of, you know, non-American country. So they must have been cool. People are starting to realize, I think... just how horrific conditions are in countries that are run in that way. And it's partly as a result of globalization, with more people moving in more directions all the time. So you've got more people telling each other, like, well, I lived under communism, and no. You know, and it's partly also, I think, as people start to see the difference between totalitarian top-down regimes in the East and the freedom and democracy and property rights in the West. Ultimately, and this is the thing that I don't talk about very much, but it's important to understand, gender studies departments, African studies departments, you know, the Soros-funded protest groups, modern feminism, Black Lives Matter, these people are all, when it comes down to it, when it ultimately boils down to it, really interested primarily not in gender or race, but in dismantling capitalism. They don't believe in the system that has made America great. Donald Trump obviously does. But these people don't believe in democracy, property rights, freedom of expression, capitalism. They don't believe in any of the things that have made the West a nice place to live. They don't believe in any of the things that have made the West a nice place if you're a woman or a minority, or a nice place if you just want to make a good go of it, start a business and be a success. They don't like that system very much. Your media doesn't either. I mean, 98% of journalists are total fucking cunts. You know, they are hopeless incompetents, liars, and political ideologues. And they simply don't believe in any of the things that have made this country really awesome. That's because they're communists. That's because they're socialists. You know, not to use words that have been perhaps exhausted by, you know, fanatics, but ultimately, what this stuff boils down to, you know, is a globalist, is a sort of globalist communist agenda, and it is ugly, and it results in pain, misery, suffering, inequality, all the things that progressives claim they hate. The best system to reduce inequality between the very rich and the very poor, the best system to give everybody an equal shot, regardless of their circumstances of birth, whether they're women or gays or blacks or whatever, the best system is the one you have in America. It's not perfect, but it is the best system that exists anywhere in the world, because it is characterized by democracy, freedom, capitalism, property rights, and all of the other things that have made America the greatest country in the history of human civilization. It is that. And many of the people in your university departments, in your media, and in Hollywood simply don't share our values. They are a problem. And, you know, much of what I talk about, although I don't articulate it exactly in those terms, really is about communism. So if you want to take it sort of a step further from the stuff I do, whether it's Islam or feminism, Black Lives Matter, whatever, take it a step further. It is about a clash of civilizations. It is about people who simply do, the people who do and the people who do not believe in capitalism. Capitalism is the best system for organizing society that humankind has yet come up with. If America loses that, it loses everything. And I'm glad that with Trump's election, it looks like you've at least hung on to it for another few generations. Let me do... Well, I just don't believe it's real. I don't think that millennials believe like you think they believe. I think you've just got a very small, very loud contingent of assholes who work at BuzzFeed and who, you know, and who are sort of bloggers and work in the entertainment business. I just don't believe that millennials are all that mental. And let me give you, and I think we better wrap up there, but let me give you one little glimmer of hope before I leave, which is my fans start at like 13. Somebody even came to my show, was 12 years old, a few days ago. Let me tell you, if you're worried about millennials and how crazy your fellow millennials are, as scared as people my age, 35, perhaps down to 25, are about admitting that maybe feminism isn't all it's cracked up to be, and maybe Black Lives Matter isn't the way to save black people, and maybe, you know, actually America's pretty great. Fairly uncontroversial statements, but things that people my age don't generally make, and people your age don't. Statements people your age don't generally make. As fearful and as reticent as my generation is, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds are incredibly bold and incredibly clear and incredibly forthright about just how much they fucking hate progressives. They really are. And you haven't seen the impact of this yet. I'm probably the only person in America who really sees the scale of this. They really sees the, you know, just how many people there are like this. There are videos that circulate inside BuzzFeed, and I know this because I, do have friends that work everywhere, even places like that. There are people that work inside BuzzFeed that, who tell me, there are videos circulating there that go viral of like young girls ridiculing feminism and BuzzFeed while they're playing video games, like 13-year-olds. There are signs that BuzzFeed's younger viewers just absolutely hate their race baiting, like 25 things I think of when I hear the word white, and you've got these like spoiled brat cunts. It's like, well, I just think of like oppression, it just makes me like really feel like I just like not safe in my environment. Young people hate this shit. They hate it. They see it for what it is, and it's partly a reaction to their own parents' generation. Because you got to remember, like I'm 32 now. 35-year-olds are parents now, and they have kids who are like 9 or 12 or whatever, depending on how slutty they were. And these kids are partly rebelling against the politics of their parents, and partly just seeing this stuff for what it is. So if you're feeling sad or if you're worried about the apparent and complete victory of progressivism over the millennial generation, I would just say sit tight and watch what people who are 13 today do when they get to 18, when they really hit the internet properly, because they hate feminism. They hate Black Lives Matter. They hate Hillary Clinton. They hate Lena Dunham. They hate Amy Schumer. They hate all of that stuff. They really, really loathe it. And, people say with sort of dreary regularity that politics comes in cycles and culture operates in cycles. It has been 30 years since progressives had a good kick in the teeth, since they stopped running everything and stopped being in charge of everything. Let me tell you, it is coming. It is not just coming heralded by people like me, but it is a generational change. There's an entire generation of young Americans who will not stand for this shit any longer. They are coming. They will back you up. They are there. Thank you very much. Thank you.
They are all willing to call you whatever gender and identity they want. But then you guys believe that you're smile at me, bitch. What you want?
Yeah, they did grab me and pull me in and try to punch me. They're the person right over there with the black lipstick.
That's assault right there.
Officer, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything that happened.
There's no reason to be
I didn't see anything.
First of all, the other people there over there shouting and stuff.
Yeah, nothing happened. Nothing happened. I didn't see anything.
We are here today to call out, as you're all aware, Jordan B. Peterson for his refusal to respect the pronouns of his transgender students. Jordan B. Peterson has made it clear that he feels that he has the authority to dictate the gender identities of his students, which we are here to say that he does not.
Did you want to do an interview about this? I'm trying to get all opinions,
I think we're supposed to prioritize trans and non-binary voices, so I'm just more interested in what
So are you binary then?
I am not.
Well, let me prioritize your voice.
I don't think that's fair as a white cis woman. But
I'm actually not cis, but what does that mean?
I'm saying that's not fair for me as a white cis woman. So you're trans then, or you're non-binary?
Didn't you just say you're non-binary?
You asked me if I was, and I said no, I'm cis.
Okay, you're cis.
You're not cis.
So you think it's unfair to talk because you're cisgender?
No, I'm supportive of the trans community, and I think that it's important that we listen to trans and non-binary voices first.
Hi. You think everyone's opinion matters equally?
Not in this one.
Like if you're willing to be educated, I'm willing to teach. But if you're not willing to listen to what I have to say,
you aren't necessarily an educator, though. That's the problem. Everyone. I know.
I'm
exactly. So we're gonna.
Maybe as trans people, we have a little bit more.
We have more
understanding than.
We have more knowledge on this subject than other people do. We have the.
You don't have to go on the Sun to talk about the Sun. You can look into it. You can read the statistics.
But someone who's been closer to the Sun would have a better experience.
As that works, I think they'd be dead, to be honest.
Yeah, they would, but that's what. But like, if they wouldn't, they would have more to say.
I can tell you how hot the Sun is without going to the Sun. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, but anyone can tell you how hot the sun is. Anyone can tell you trans people are trans. Peterson isn't trying to have a discussion.
Have you gone to go have a discussion with Peterson?
What he said was that he would not acknowledge our pronouns. That is not the same as saying he wants to have a discussion.
And he said because, and gave a reason. Now, if you went and asked him for more, to have a debate on that, if I say I don't believe the sky is green,
to talk to him, I wouldn't be safe in that.
You think he'd hurt you?
A transmasculine person in a dress talking to transphobes is never safe, whether it's physical or verbal.
Okay, so you're not willing to have a discussion because it wouldn't be a safe space.
I am not willing to have a discussion about whether or not I am real and valid.
Would you like to give your opinion? I mean, we just had someone scream at us that I'm interviewing too many white people, too many white men.
White people, way too many cis men.
Why is that a problem?
I think you're going up to the straightest, cisest, whitest people you can find and trying to...
Next question. Up the back, maybe. Me? Yeah. Okay. I'm just guessing, but I say yes.
So my question is about your characterization of the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, you characterize it as sort of divisive, antagonistic, loud, etc. Have you ever now?
They've made that clear themselves singing.
Two questions so we're on the same page. Have you ever heard of the Harvard implicit biases test?
No.
Okay, so what they do essentially is you can go on their website and you can take a test which shows what you associate with people of different creeds, colors, genders, etc. And they've been doing this for years, scientifically controlled study, very reliable, and it turns out that nearly everyone thinks black people, just by virtue of being black, are loud, divisive, antagonistic, etc. So to me, what that tells me is that, you know, they're probably not, and we just perceive them that way for whatever reason. So my question is, why are you so confident in your assessment of Black Lives Matter when almost all the scientific evidence shows us that we misinterpret black people?
Well, that's not what the study of the study said. It says that's not what the study of the study says. What it says is people perceive certain characteristics in black people. Well, they might be right about that. Next question. I gave a response. So I said,
Let him talk!
I gave a response. But I said, unless you believe, given the segregation in this country, it's not unreasonable to assume that different speech codes have evolved between different racial groups and different cultural milieux give rise to different sorts of interpersonal behaviours. Certainly, we know that black people use Twitter differently, for instance. The way they use it, there are metrics on this. There's plenty of research to show how black Twitter operates differently, linguistically speaking. They use hashtags differently. There's no reason to suppose that the results that are shown by this study aren't in fact the case. You know, people perceive black people as being louder because black people are louder. That's possible. It's not racist to say. It might just be a difference.
Exactly. Facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah.
There you go.
I should say that. It's a wonderful answer, John.
Who are the loud ones tonight, though?
No question, please.
So, earlier in the talk, two-part question but they're related. Earlier in the talk, you mentioned something about statistics and rape and how they're not different in colleges. And I'm interested in that because I've been made to believe that I am a rapist when I have never raped anybody. And it's a stigma that I would like to dispel with statistics. In addition to somebody who wishes to want to look at facts, like you've looked at facts,